Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Board Game Geek Show for December 7th, 2018. I'm your host, Scott Alden, once again joined by my lovely co-hosts, Lincoln Damerst, Steph Hodge, and W. Eric Martin.
Hi! Yay!
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everybody.
How was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, it was tasty. We had lots of good food and played some games. How about you?
It was great. Played lots of games, lots of family stuff, and lots of kids. Oh my gosh. Normally I don't like playing games with kids, but these kids were great, and I had a good time.
I'll play games with whoever wants to play games with me, so that's no problem there.
Yeah, if they're up for it, and they're behaved, like that's important, right? Well-behaved
Right,
children, not trying to do 20 other things while the game is going on. That's always annoying.
That's right. Focus. That's always the challenge.
Okay, Eric Martin is telling me to focus, so I better talk about real important stuff, such as the Board Game Geek fundraiser for 2018. At the end of the year, every year we do a fundraiser to help support the site. We use the money to pay for servers, pay for trips, pay for convention access, pay for all the great employees that I have, and more stuff. That basically, if you want to go read the list, go to BoardGameGeek.com/support and check out the page. If you support us for $15, you'll be able to get a patron badge, and you can put that on your avatar, and you can build them up year after year. I think we've been doing this for a while now, so there's some people you've seen with the badges that go pretty far.
All the way back to 2004.
2004 was the first year.
Wow.
Now, if you spend $25, you will be able to customize the way you see ads on the site. So you could turn things off that, like, if you don't want ads on the front page or if you don't want them on the game pages, there's a whole bunch of ways you could turn those on or off. I think our ads are pretty good. We try to keep all the ads targeted to board games. So I think even if you are a supporter at $25, leaving those ads on will definitely keep you kind of apprised of like what new games are coming out. Anyway, I don't want to talk about it all day. Lincoln, do you have something to say about the fundraiser, I think?
You can support us year-round through the link that Scott gave, BoardGameGeek.com/support, but you can also support us if you buy from our BoardGameGeekStore.com, where you can get things like the new bit bowls that Chad has designed, the silicone bit bowls, the silicone card trays, new deluxe tokens for games like Antiquity and Seasons and Orleans and Race for the Galaxy, Roll for the Galaxy, and others coming now. So it's really great.
You can also get a cool Steph Hodge gaming calendar of 2019.
They're going quick, so you got to get it there soon.
There's also promos from publishers that you can get, including the new Terraforming Mars corporations that were BGG user designs that just came into the store. So there's tons of great things that you can purchase and help us run the site as well.
Coming to the store in the future, giant-sized Rhino Hero.
Ooh.
Back in print in Japan.
Oh, really?
And we have a fair number of copies coming through the store. Just talking with the publisher and forwarded info to Chad, and then Chad told me that we have some coming.
Yay!
So
I want one.
That's awesome. That's a really spectacular
back in print
set.
and not available through Haba in the US, but available via Japan.
Cool. All right, so we'll move on to everybody's favorite segment, what have you been playing? Eric, why don't you start us off?
So I just attended the PAX Unplugged show at the end of November, beginning of December. The game that stood out for me the most, it's a game, I love Japanese designs, there's no surprise here, was this game Stonehenge in the Sun by Itten, which has also released Tokyo Highway, now available through Asmodee in North America. It's released Here Comes the Dog. It's released Tribe. It's all these games with wild components and unexpected gameplay, and Stonehenge and the Sun falls into that same category. It originally debuted in an art style exhibit called Is This a Game? So that's sort of how out there it is. But it most definitely is a game. We were playing it at PAX. We played it in the booth and then after hours in the first look room. And the premise of the game is that you are establishing Stonehenge. And that is done by placing blocks standing up around this circular board. But each time after you place a block, you must move your token to an area that is only for you. And then you must swing a heavy metal ball across the playing area, possibly knocking things over.
So how is this metal ball in the air? How?
Well, in the booth, we had a wooden frame over the booth. When we were playing in the first look room, there was a camera mic, the sort of boom hanging out there. They're talking about how they're going to package it with an S-hook or carabiners or suction cups or just fishing wire, and you just figure it out yourself, right?
Oh, great.
It's the first game where you have to screw a hole in your ceiling in order to play.
Oh my God.
I don't know if that's really a marketing tactic they want to use, but you can do that. So you're stacking up the blocks, and you try not to knock things over, because any blocks you knock over are penalty blocks, and whoever knocks over the fewest wins the game. You play until all the blocks are gone. And you can stack them too high, and you can have two close together and then put one across, Stonehenge style, to make a gate, which is then sort of out of play, and nothing can be built on that. But of course, things get wrecked as the game progresses, and then you rebuild as you go on. There's also a fast mode of play where you just start that pendulum swinging around the board. You just whirl it kind of hard, and as it's spinning, you have to race to place 10 blocks in your particular areas of the board without touching the string or the ball, or you get penalized for doing so. And you play a number of rounds, and whoever gets the most points wins after that. So it's just different and weird and out there, and I wheedled a copy out of them to take home and do a preview video, because I just want to show this off more, because it's pretty cool.
That sounds really cool. I gotta try it.
How long until someone cracks a tooth on that steel ball where it just backs them in the story?
Or it dislodges from your ceiling and shatters your television.
Yeah, it could definitely do that.
Yeah. When I saw how fast that ball was going, and it's pretty significant.
Yeah.
I
It's
was
pretty
how,
heavy
how
and
hard and fast it was flying down the line. People seem to be like pushing it too. They were like giving it extra force. I'm like, man, it's kind of cool. Very neat physics game.
Yeah, it's a very different take on a dexterity game, because I've never seen an element like that before. So
No kidding.
yeah, Steph, what have you been doing? Something like this, I'm sure.
It turns out I played 56 new games in November, so I picked my favorite.
Oh man,
which is Underwater Cities. That was a lot of games. But this one stands out the most, and Blackout was also tied, which was awesome. But this is the one that really has my interest, and people have been comparing it a little bit to Terraforming Mars, which I get, because there's a whole bunch of unique cards, and you're building up your different combos that you can do. But you really have a player board that you're building up your little city. So that's what I really like about it. You're not like in a map with everybody else. You're doing your own thing. But it's a worker placement game, so you're trying to get the spaces you want first so you can do all the actions you want to do. So that, from Delicious Games, I don't know if anybody else got to play it at BGGCon maybe, but it's a bit of a longer game, and I would suggest 3 players when you first play it, because it can be quite long.
Yeah. It's designed by Vladimír Suchý, who's always been pretty strong for me as far as his
Last Will.
Yeah.
Yeah, Last Will.
Shipyard really is my favorite. But
I have not had a chance to play it, but my group has. I'm unfortunately a little sick, so I haven't been playing games since Thanksgiving, but they are raving about it, basically saying it's like a Terraforming Mars-esque. Not exactly the same, obviously. It's worker placement.
Yeah, but if you're a hardcore Terraforming Mars fan, I'm not sure that it'll be right there with your score. But I think for me, it works a lot better because I'm not as confrontational, and I'm not like hate drafting cards so much. You're working with a hand of cards, but you're not like, you don't have to focus as much on other players, which is kind of more my style, I guess.
Or you're tending your own garden.
Yeah, exactly. And nobody can come over and like run over your cities or anything you're doing, so that always helps too.
I haven't played either, but I do know that Rio Grande Games is importing copies and will be distributing them in North America in early 2019.
Oh, that's exciting. Wow.
Yeah. Cool.
Everybody will be happy to hear that. So
needs to get here as soon as it can.
Yeah. It'll be a huge hit.
Got to ride that buzz.
How about you, Lincoln? What have you been playing?
I played My Favorite Things. It's a game that I've been dying to play since Tokyo Game Market. Eric got the demo from the designer, and it is a fantastic social deduction trick-taking game.
It's a unique combination.
I know, and it's amazing. You will pick a category that you will pick 5 things that and rank them in order from favorite to least favorite, but they're all your favorites. And then you'll have one that is not a favorite or something that you hate. And then the way you rank them is it's a numbered card that you write them with dry erase. You'll have a card behind that has 1 to 5 and a 0, and then you put them in behind and then slide them into a sleeve. Then you pass them to the person to your left. And then they will, and this happens all the way around the table, and then everybody at the same time, starting with the start player, will play one of the cards, and they're deducing what rank they think it is. The winner of the trick will be the person with the lowest number, and 0 is the trump card. So you're trying to figure out which, based on what you know about the other person or whatever, what they like or dislike in that in the grouping that they have, and it's really, really fun. Very fantastic design, and it's really adorable, really beautiful production with a little beautiful box and little teeny mailbox that's a start player, and they have stamps for the what you're trying to collect. All stamps from the Netherlands, I think. I can't remember. It was funny. I'm like, okay, and but it's really, really well done and really fun because you learn about the other people at the table. It's really great. The other thing I played that I thought was really fun was Push from Ravensburger. They gave us a free copy at BGG Con, and it is designed by Prospero Hall, and it's a push your luck game where you're flipping out cards and trying to. You have 3 piles. I guess you're always making 3 piles, even with more players. I played with 3.
I played with
3 piles
too.
according to Eric, and. So not everybody's going to get cards, but the nice thing is it makes sense with the direction change, I guess, when you have more players. So there's cards that will change the direction of who drafts the next piles, but they're really, really fun with some great choices. It's an amazing little fun game that Rusty was like, only losers bank their cards. So I was having a great time with it.
Hey, I won and I banked my cards.
I really like the art style. It kind of reminds me of Uno from my old, 80s days of playing Uno. So
yeah, it's a modern Forrest-Pruzan design with some interesting stuff going on, and it looks great. It's a beautiful package too. I'll show it as well.
Yeah, I thought it looked very much like Uno. I'm like, this is like a retro game.
Retro.
But yeah, designed in Seattle, though. It's interesting. So Ravensburger game. They're definitely doing more stuff in the United States. Wonderforge, I know, Scott loved Big Money from that game, from that publisher.
It was so good. Couldn't get enough of that game.
Only Lincoln liked it at that table, I think.
Yeah, it was a bomb for us, unfortunately. But whatever. Look, Lincoln loved it. Maybe not everybody else did. But there's a
you
game
know
for
me,
everybody
I like the chaos stuff. It's fun. I used to hate chaos in games, and now I love it. I've embraced the chaos.
That's good.
What'd you play, Scott?
So I played a bunch of stuff at Thanksgiving, but the one game, a lot of things went over well. Like just one, the family loved it. They really loved playing The Mind. I inflicted them with The Mind, and they were just like, how does this work? They're really flabbergasted by it. So it was kind of fun to see them play that. But the one that I really am zoning in on for myself is Chronicles of Crime. I've been talking about this. I think I've talked about it before. Steph has talked about it. We cracked into a case, and I played it with kids. It was me and my stepsister's 3 daughters. So they're all teenagers. So it's kind of like it was very interesting to see it being played through the eyes of a teenager, right? Because what was important to them was not like it was. I was thinking of clues that were more important, and they were thinking of clues that were more important. So we kind of were like challenging each other. I'm like, what do you think happened? And the theories that came from them was just kind of funny to me, but it was fun overall. Like we totally bombed it. Neither of us, like in my mind, I was kind of like letting them like sort of run the detective thing. So I had a theory in my mind of what I thought had happened, but in the end we were completely wrong. Both sides basically. And so we were, I'm going to have to play that one again just to see like how the story works. Cause it's part 1 of a 3-part mystery, in the first scenario, I think that pops up after the tutorial.
I think the same thing happened to me. So I've got to play part 1 again too. But it's cool that you can play with your family. So you think it'd be a good family game then? Now that being said, there was definitely some adult themes in there that I was kind of like, ooh. Kind of like, I was gonna say maybe we should. There was weird stuff, but 13. I don't know. I guess that's probably old enough. I'm not a good PG-13. It's PG-13, maybe a little bit more than that. Maybe like PG. I don't know. But it was fun.
I think PG-13 is more than PG.
Yeah,
we're going to R.
It wasn't rated level. R. There was no rated R movies in America are like nudity, right? Like the violence to me is amped up. Anyway, won't get into that discussion. But it was great, and I'm looking forward to playing the rest. I actually gave them the copy that I had, so I have to get another one from Lucky Duck, and maybe I think it kind of is. It's not sold out. I was able to order another copy. So if you're looking for a really cool adult-themed game to play at Christmas, get Chronicles of Crime. I think it's still available. Not sold out everywhere.
I would +1 that recommendation. It's really creative and interesting. Well,
Murder
actually, can you compare
holidays.
it? Yeah, can you compare it to Detective? Because I haven't actually played Detective, and I've been hearing comparisons, but
it's similar and different because you're going around to locations and investigating and like. But the thing I really like about Chronicles is it's open-ended. I can find a piece of evidence in one location and then go to another location.
and you could literally ask
and ask
everybody.
someone about that piece of evidence, no matter what. It crosses the boundaries, right? I can only do what's on the card in Detective, right?
Yeah.
So that's
I like that it's so
limiting.
open-ended. Yeah,
But I think there's like way more. I don't know what the right word. Depth to Detective. There's a lot more like stuff because they're limited. Sort
paths
of by the
that you can
cards.
take and stuff like that.
Yeah, and Chronicles of Crime, you're limited. It's not really. I don't know. It's very hard because they're both really great, but you're limited sort of by the number of cards you find. Like, oh, I found drugs. Oh, I found blood. I found. Those cards are all you have, and there's a good number of them. There's maybe like 40 or 50 of them, but with Detective, dog poop could be a thing. Whereas like dog poop might not be a thing in Chronicles of Crime, right? You'll never.
but then you can bring around this dog poop and ask literally everybody.
Exactly. You could I don't know what you're talking about. Dog poop. Oh yeah, that was my dog.
Please go away.
Yeah. So I guess that sort of highlights the differences in Detective. I don't know. It's hard, but they're both great. So if you like detective style, investigative, solve the crime games, you can't go wrong with either one.
You really feel like you're working a TV show.
100%. And I think having watched a lot of CSI and helps like with that stuff. Although there was one thing I didn't notice in there was another case with a serial killer, completely obvious that none of us noticed. Right? It was in each crime scene had something, and we all missed it. So you can pretend how good you are at investigating crime scene, but you're probably not really that good.
That's right. Watching TV does not make you a detective.
No, it does not make you an
It's
expert.
true.
Investigating blood
True
spatter.
story.
You're not a blood spatter expert. Sorry. So that's it for our games that we've been playing. Eric had a new segment he wanted to bring up. Eric, take it away.
Oh, new segment. So at PAX, it was kind of interesting to go there and find game announcements that had taken place somewhere, but I had not seen them. Usually I feel like I'm on top of everything, but there's an announcement by IDW Games on Twitter and on Facebook. That was all it was, of a Metal Gear Solid game by Emerson Matsuuchi. And that's all they said. They had Emerson standing by a poster and nothing else. Coming in 2019. And I didn't see it at the show. I didn't run into Emerson. I've emailed him. It turns out he was playing with friends. It was their first time at a con, and he was guiding them through the con experience. So he was busy. But I talked to him a little bit, and pretty much he has to get clearance to say anything beyond what's been said so far, except that this is not a retheming of Spectre Ops. This is not related to that. New design. Beyond that, who knows? So it's definitely got the most buzz out of the show, even though there was nothing really to go on other than a few words and an image. So it's kind of interesting to see that happen. Other news that we've had, NSKN Games has merged with Board&Dice. So Board&Dice is a Polish publisher. NSKN had a Polish office, but was originally in Romania. And they've now merged into a single entity, which is keeping the Board&Dice game name. And their individual publishing agendas are now somewhat merged, with some things kind of pushed off and some, rejiggered, depending on what they're doing here. And again, it's just another example of companies coming together to merge their resources and combine their marketing and just put forward a bigger presence, similar to how you want to think of Stronghold and indie board games. that at PAX they had one bigger booth all together with a giant logo, and then a little separate IBC booth off to the side there for any boards and cards that I guess maybe they bought that before the merger had been finalized. Because NSKN and Board&Dice also had separate spaces at PAX. But in the future, it'll be bigger booths. All these companies coming together to show off things.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of the smaller companies merging together to make one bigger company, right? Obviously, they can share a lot of the expenses for conventions and don't have to pay things for double. I don't know. Have to double the volunteers. I don't know. That's kind of like an interesting... I wonder what all the things that are redundant in a game company that can be used as one in two game companies coming together. Hadn't really thought about all the things that take a game company to run.
One thing that is prominent with sort of that merger is the issue of distribution. So I spent a lot of time at PAX talking with publishers and some distributor representatives, a couple of retailers, just trying to put together a picture of the modern industry for some articles I'm working on. And one issue that kept coming up is just distributors not working with publishers or, not carrying certain titles anymore. There's so many titles on the market right now that distributors they want to be done with certain titles because there's just more coming in endlessly. So when you're combining publisher bases together, you have a little more swing with a distributor in that you have more titles under one roof to deal with, which makes it easier for those distributors to deal with you. A couple of people had mentioned how the biggest hurdle in the industry, in their eyes, is shipping cost, which is interesting to think about because that's not something that sort of comes up when you talk about game designs. But just the cost of shipping has escalated so much that it is harder to work with distributors for retailers because you don't get free shipping anymore when you're doing restocks or orders of a certain size. So you have to go up even more or add shipping on top of that, which is, of course, cutting your margins. Or publishers shipping to distributors now have certain issues with all the costs going on with that. And so if you merge together, now you've got more coming in at once, which then maybe you're moving a pallet rather than half a pallet, and it's still the same cost, even though it's got the same footprint. So you're moving things along that way. I don't know, there's all this behind the scenes stuff that plays into these mergers, and that was one of the issues that came up from different people.
I can imagine with the convention season now being year round, merging companies together might actually make sense, right? In that regard, where you can reduce your costs or spread the cost between two companies worth of sales, right? Because it's nonstop now. There is no break. We have a convention in December now. It used to be that BGG-Con was the last con for most folks of the season, and not anymore.
No, it's changed. There's still some of that. So I finished the news here, and Scott was like, "That's it." But there's very few game announcements sort of in the December period. It is a little time off, a little break here, mostly because I was looking as well for prominent Kickstarters that we might talk about in the show, and there's almost nothing. It's just Kickstarter dies off in December because everyone is going to be spending their money on other things for holiday sales. Then January will hit, and we'll have 50,000 things to talk about. But yeah, everything dies off except, yes, PAX is now added in as the December convention. And then PAX South is going to be in mid-January, I believe.
Oh, really?
I think that's when it is. And then...
February, I think. Right? Or is it January? I don't remember.
I thought it was late January, mid to late January.
PAX South is in January, by the way.
But then everything starts up again immediately once you hit into January there. So it's hard to have any time off anymore.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, you could definitely see that with the con cost because, of course, if you're running a 10 by 10 booth, how many people do you need to cover breaks and blah, blah, blah? But if you just combine that with someone else and you may only need a couple of more people. So then you can have fewer people covering this larger space just because you have a little more flexibility with scheduling things. Kind of the way we did it at this past spiel. A lot of people.
Well, especially Gen Con with the hot games room. That was actually complicated for us.
Yeah, except then we had two separate spaces that we have to man. So
yep.
We have a combined team, but different things to operate.
Well, I had one Kickstarter that was kind of an interesting one at the end of the year here is the Assassin's Creed cooperative game that looks really cool. I haven't dug into it. They've released a ton of content for it, unlocked and stuff. So I backed it. My typical thing is I back it on day one, and then I don't pay attention to it until it closes. So, but I went back and checked it the other night. It looks just like a ton of stuff. It's a big, heavy minis game, and it's cooperative. So I'm kind of excited to see what they're coming up with. And I love the Assassin's Creed universe, and all that. Templars versus the Assassins and all that stuff. So, and I'm not really up to date on the story. I don't know what I know it's kind of twisted and turned all these years, but it looks cool. Unfortunately, by the time you watch the show, it's probably going to be closed, so I apologize. I wish I had talked about it earlier, but there you go.
Well, also, one of the people involved with the Kickstarter was involved with the video game series and knows the storyline because that was what they were responsible for, if I'm remembering this correctly.
Neat.
So it does have that lineage into the game itself.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they take a one-player video game, a single player, and turn it into a multiplayer cooperative game. Like I said, that could be all out there, and I just haven't looked into it. There's so many videos of it. Like they've really kind of embraced their community that they're building up with tons of videos, tons of content talking about the game, and it could all be there, and I just haven't had a chance to see it yet. But I'm excited anyway because I really like Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, it's coming. So just once you get it, then you can dig in and...
Every day at my house, some Kickstarter from 2 years ago shows up, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I just got Cerebria. I'm so excited to play that.
Cerebria, yeah.
Oh my god, I got the painted minis. It's so gorgeous.
I did too. I need to go check those out, actually. They arrived the other day. So.
I know, we have to play.
You have no idea how big when you played 56 games in November, 56 different.
New games, right?
So how many games total did you play?
Oh, I'm not sure. Probably.
Okay. Well, I need to at least get like 5 done. That'd be good. I'd be happy with 5 new.
5?
I'm kidding. I want to play more than that, obviously.
That's right. Things get busy.
What I was trying to say earlier when I said new, you heard me say news. I meant new. As in brand new segment.
Oh, yes.
Which you put on the agenda, so I'll let you tell us what it is.
I did put that on the agenda. So, as I mentioned, I was at PAX Unplugged, and it was interesting going around the booths and comparing how publishers market their games at conventions and how some of them don't market or barely market at all. And just wanted to see if you guys had experiences that you wanted to talk about of ways that publishers had presented games well at conventions, something that got your attention or made you look at something that you hadn't looked at otherwise. I don't know if anyone wants to start with that. And
I saw at BGG Con, Nikki was working with the Surf and Meeple booth, and they had giant versions of Catch the Moon and Meeple Circus. And they were fantastic. It sucks because I don't believe either of those games are available to purchase, and they look amazing, and I want the giant versions. I think the Meeple Circus is so tiny. I'd only played it once now, and it's so tiny that I couldn't get... I was like, can I have pine tar to stick on all these things so they'll stick together? It was so impossible. So I played around with the large ones. I'm like, I could make this happen. My hands are just not handling it well. And then Catch the Moon, it just looked great, and it was at least twice or 3 times as big, and it just looked fantastic, which is a neat way to draw attention to the stuff. I just hope that these companies decide to actually try to sell them as well.
I believe that they will. I talked with Nikki about those, and I believe she did mention that there were some plans to make a large-scale Meeple Circus and Catch the Moon available. Possibly, a Kickstarter project just to, it's not something you're going to necessarily see in a store, but you can special order it the way that...
Well, her company, one of the things they do is large versions of games. I mean, that's why they had these. They've done River Dragons and they've done Takanoko. But I know that there's... obviously the feedback was great. She was saying that everybody wants to buy Meeple Circus and probably... I said I want to buy Catch the Moon. Catch the Moon is a different publisher, though. That's Bombix. So even though Takanoko is Bombix as well. So there's a precedent for that. So potentially it would happen again.
Yeah. So that was definitely one thing I would mention with the giant size edition, because at PAX, Gigamic had their giant size abstract strategy games, which have been staples for their catalog for decades. on displays that are pushed right out to the very corner of the booth, and someone's standing behind it. And so you can learn Perios or Corridor or Quinto.
What was the one that you played at Essen?
Squadro?
The one giant one with the blades going across?
Yes. That was Squadro, and they did not have the giant size one because there is exactly one copy in existence right now, and it's in France. So that one they didn't have, but they had all the other ones. And they actually have tiny corridor and then larger corridor, and then you can buy that giant size corridor for, I think it was $250, $300, something like that, if you want that. But it's something that you cannot miss as you pass by. And yeah, like you're saying, it just catches your eye, and people watch. They can see the action more easily.
Absolutely.
So you're not just demonstrating to the people right in front of you, but to the crowd around you. That's very valuable use of time for your demo people.
I agree. I love all those big games. So I'm always immediately drawn to that. Like Drop It. I don't know if you got to play this huge.
Oh my gosh! I wish I had that one.
So good.
It's so beautiful.
The giant size one. How big are the pieces? Like,
well, you saw it with we played it at Nuremberg last year.
Yeah, I only remember the regular size version. I didn't
we had the big one. It was fantastic.
I'm getting old.
It's too far in the past, man. Don't worry about it. We're going there next month. You can do it all over again. Forget it right away.
That'll be gone.
I know.
New. Anything else that stood out for?
I have a comment about the giant size games, which I think are fantastic. However, without a game to buy, without something to take away, you're going to forget about it when you go buy games, right?
Yep. You
need like a pin or a flyer. I hate flyers, but they kind of work. But I just remember this is a different topic, but another marketing thing was when we went to Gen Con, all of the people who went to the press event got 2 decks of Keyforge. Right? Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine if they actually had Keyforge to sell at Gen Con? Because you have all these people in this, like, I guess that care enough to waste time going to a press event versus play games at Gen Con. I mean, they filled that room, right?
Yeah,
not everybody's really pressed.
It was Wednesday night, so the fair wasn't open yet.
So it's not quite open yet. But anyway, so you go to Gen Con, everybody gets these Keyforge decks, and oh my gosh, everybody went crazy, and the word of mouth went around, and everybody's talking about it, and then you can't buy it. Like, okay. I'm sure, I guess if they had them available, they might have been able to buy it. And maybe they weren't available at that time, but I feel like they probably were.
They've only recently
So I always feel like
released,
these marketing things that don't end up in a sale are kind of like, well, here's a whole bunch of stuff, and then we lose.
You
the
mean
sale.
where you're sort of, you got to ramp up that time of buzz?
I guess. I feel like Keyforge ramped it up a little too long from Gen Con to like basically a couple weeks ago when it released. That's a long time.
mid-November.
It's quite a while.
It's true. It's true. Although it was hot at BGG Con, and there was an endless line at PAX of people to play.
Right.
And they ran out of copies.
Well, there's 70,000 people at Gen Con.
Yeah.
Your biggest show in the whole whatever. I don't know. I'm not in charge of these companies, but I always feel disappointed. I was super disappointed that I could not get Keyforge at Gen Con.
Right.
So I imagine everybody else felt the same way. Anyway.
So it's all that issue of the timing and the release of information and actual availability, and that's, you got to plan all that out.
So I feel Apple does a lot of things correctly, and 9 times out of 10, they announce something at a show or a press conference, and then it's available that week to buy.
Right.
Just is. So you get that fervor of like, ooh, I want that, and then you can get the fulfillment within a week or less.
I know, I'm dying for that charging pad to let me charge all my wireless devices. When is that coming?
Yeah, they announced that how many years ago? Yes,
it doesn't always
failure
work.
There.
The HomePod was a while too. They don't always have it.
No, not always. Yeah, that's what I said. 9 times out of 10.
And it does. I think it hurt them on the HomePod. It took a while for that to actually come out.
Yeah.
So that brings up an interesting point. How some companies were marketing things that they did not actually have available. And so that as well is just like you're saying with Keyforge is the thing not to do. So Pandasaurus Games, for example, they did not expect to have a booth, but I guess someone canceled or they opened up and they had a booth offered to them. And so they went, but they had no product available because they're waiting on restocks of The Mind and Dulosaur Island and Dinosaur Island, Totally Liquid. And they had things to demo, but they had nothing to sell. So yeah, what are people going to take home other than possibly a memory of it? And maybe I'll get that at some point. And
Yeah.
who knows whether that's actually going to happen.
And maybe that's their goal, right? Like to go to these shows, it's quite expensive and a lot of effort, right? And so just to like plant the seed in someone's mind, but it does feel like you're at best going to be a couple hundred people per day. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's like shows are fun to go to. I really love them, but also they take a lot of work, they take a lot of effort, and they're always not guaranteed to pay off for you, right? Like you don't know. If me going to the show, if especially if I'm not selling the game directly there, can I attribute me going to a big convention with 1,000 other attendees? Did that pay off for me? I don't know how you market the or I don't know how you calculate the return on investment for those, right? Like,
yeah,
Gen Con's super expensive, but a lot of people sometimes don't even sell stuff there, so it's like.
Well, so then you think you should be doing something more concrete, like taking email addresses for a mailing list or giving out discount coupons or some sort of code so that you can go on my website later and you can buy this game for a discount, or something where you have some sort of follow through or something for people to take home. Because I know there's been plenty of times where I empty out my bag, 5 days after I get home finally, and I find flyers that I shoved in there and all sorts of other things that otherwise, if I hadn't taken a picture of it or taken notes of it, then it was gone.
That's why I like things that are a little more valuable than a flyer, like a pin or a magnet or
promo.
Something cool.
Yeah. Something that you can show off
I think
later.
we should all become marketers because, we all...
It's a tough job, man.
Oh, it's so tough, especially because you don't really know, like... The only way you would know is if you did something like what Eric did, where the people had a code, like, BGGCon 2018 discount code that you go, and then you're like, oh, well, 50 people from BGGCon came and bought this game. Then you know how much, you can basically directly compute it.
Yeah.
I don't see anybody really doing that, though. Most publishers don't sell their own games directly, right? I mean, they just don't.
Oh, you mean
they have a little bit
other
of stock,
other than at conventions?
Yeah. Correct.
Yes.
Like a little bit of stock from conventions, maybe a little bit of direct sales on their website, but typically it's not through them, right? It's going to be through a online, well, in our world, online, right? Online retailer. Some of the rest of the world, local game stores, but
yeah,
it's hard to know that if I went to BGGCon to go then to the local game store 2 months later, buy Christmas stuff, or a month later, what am I gonna? It's the games I played that probably aren't on the shelf, and it's like it's a weird thing. So
yeah,
is that gonna influence me to buy it?
Follow through.
Yeah.
There was one other issue, and that's of course making sure that you actually have some sort of signage so that people know what you have available. So
yeah,
Ultra Pro owns Playroom Entertainment, and they had a new game that debuted at PAX that I knew about only because I saw designer Elisa Teague, and I saw that she had posted on Facebook about it, and I ran into her and she demoed it. And it was a little dice game on a half table in the middle of their booth that you would never have known existed just walking around their booth. There I saw no signage, no display, no presentation, where you think if you're having a 5 to 10 minute dice game, it should be on one of those tables that's right at the corner of your booth so you can demo it. Yes. Yeah. You should be demoing that nonstop to every single person who walks by, because other people can, again, learn it in a minute.
If you're dead in the center of a booth where you have to fight through to get to it, it's impossible.
Nobody's going to make the effort.
Yeah, very few. I like what Breaking Games did with their games, where they had the designer standing behind a pedestal table where they would just give you the 5-minute demo or play the full game, even if it was a quick game. So
it was very approachable because you also had someone who was paying attention to you pretty much all the time. There were a couple of booths where I walked by and there's someone there doing this.
Yeah.
And you're just like, you just keep walking. Like, sorry, I don't want to interrupt you.
Yeah, of course.
To
if
ask
someone's
a question.
buried in their phone, that means they don't want to be talked to, right? Like, that's the international signal. I do that all the
Yeah.
time at like places where I'm by myself.
Yeah,
You know, like,
but
I don't really
you're
want
not
anybody to
selling
talk to me.
games there.
Like I'm in my phone. Starbucks.
But if you're at a convention, it should be eyes out all the time. You ready
Yeah,
to
making eye contact with people, getting them engaged in the game. I don't know. Seems easy, but it's probably hard. Like I remember Lincoln and I when we went to what was that show? South by Southwest, the game show. Unless you're like amped up and ready to do demos for 10 hours straight, you kind of don't want to like get people to come into the booth, right? We're like, I'm done. That's why we need, you need breaks and stuff. But like, we were just there by ourselves.
I was babysitting the whole time. So
I remember some guy came and left his kid with us.
Well, then, and then I had the table of girls playing the one. I think we played King of Tokyo, which was fun. But yeah, it was weird. That one guy's like, "I'll be right back," and then he was gone for over
It was
an
like
hour.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like,
That's
well, I'm
really
glad you're lucky. I'm a nice guy.
That's right. I'm gonna hand you over to security and be done with you. That's just
Wow.
that's really weird. I mean, so you have to sort of, yes, you have to be outgoing. I mean, this is why we only have a 2-hour host shift at Gen Con and Spiel, because you are on all the time and talking and engaging, and it wears you out. But that is way better. You possibly, I want to say offending someone, but sort of getting in people's faces. Like, you're trying to introduce a game to people, so you have to at least get their attention to let them know that it's there.
It takes a lot of energy to be able to do all that stuff. I mean, to be on all the time, because you've got to be engaging and friendly and eager to tell people about this stuff, and it wears you out for sure.
I see a lot of posts on Facebook for companies saying, if you want to come demo at our booth, I'll give you a ticket. And it's like, well, you're going to get what, you don't know what you're going to get with the person who's going to say, yeah, I'll go. Like, you might get the guy who's in his phone all day. Like, I don't know. When you're a company, like, trying to make a business in this world, and to get a random volunteer, just like that you don't screen at all, it's kind of weird to me. Like, you have to, like, try to find the people that are excited and want to sell the game.
Right.
Gary Kim's demo team is amazing. Like, I remember, like, you doing videos with his demo team, and they were just, like, on fire, like, they're so excited about the game. So that's the way you do it. You got to get someone to get excited, to get someone else excited.
Yes, the designer is not always the best demo person.
Probably not.
You find other people.
In a lot of cases, no.
Yeah.
We won't mention any names here.
I don't even know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. But the last thing I'd mention is props. If you can have something unusual that is going to catch people's eyes, they will look at you. And that has to be step number 1 for actually demoing a game to someone, is that they see you. And there's all sorts of different ways to do this. Upper Deck has done this for years at Gen Con, where they have some elaborate, almost movie prop, movie setup. At PAX, company Killjoy, the new company with lots of weird independent things, had a car parked in the middle of their space for their game Stoner Parking Lot, where you are just trying to collect the things you need to go get wasted. So that's the game. But the car was in there with smoke pouring out of the windows as if you were in the back seat smoking. Yes. It was wild with, this punkish music playing as well. And all the people who were demoing the games were at these booths, which are pushed right to the edge. And they're just on demoing constantly. Hey, how you doing? Great to see you here. Blah, 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 and just get you in immediately. While you're just like, what the heck is this? The car in the middle of the lot, in the middle
That's
of
cool.
the space there. So
yeah, Metago had a lot of stations where you could take pictures with stuff. Like they had a pirate's
At Essen,
cage.
yes.
Yeah, at Essen.
All on the edge, too.
Yeah, so you could just walk up and do it, and then you would see
That's
it.
right. And if you get a few feet into the booth, then hopefully they can have someone there who's going
to show you a game. Yeah.
a few feet further in. Or do something.
Yeah, they
people
went over the
laughing.
top this year with all their props and stuff, for sure.
Yeah. It has to be something. And ideally, there's a lot of companies that are highly professional in what they do, but it's also the same every year. So it's professional, but it's also expected. And now you sort of blends in the background just because, I know, I've seen that before.
Yeah, Upper Deck used to do a big, well, they still do a big Gen Con setup, right? Like with a set.
Yeah.
Movie set type thing.
There you go.
All right, well, that wraps up another episode of the Board Game Geek Show. Thank you again to my lovely co-hosts, Lincoln Damerst, Steph Hodge, and W. Eric Martin.
Woo!
We will see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
See ya. Have fun.